Now let's look at one of the first implementations of using for loop. So what we are trying to do, that we are given an array and we have to find the even numbers in that array. So we will see that we can do it something like this, that we will have an array. Okay, let's say 1 2 3 4 5 6 7 8 is there. Then we take another variable, another array, empty array. This is an empty array. Empty array can be created like same syntax but no items in it, which means that right now nothing is there in this array. Now we have a for loop where we are going to starting with obviously 0 index and till length less than length I plus plus, that is fine. But inside this what we are going to do is that we take each value. ARRI will give each of the values. That value, if we divide that value and get the remainder, this remainder operator, if remainder of this thing with 2 is 0, which means that 2 is perfectly divisible, then it is going to be equal to and that thing is equal to 0, then this is even. If that thing is not equal to 0, then that is odd, right? I'm interested in even. So whenever that condition is met, which means that that item is even, then we know the syntax. Take the array, even is the name of the array, dot push, and this item you push it inside this, and then you will get the finally whenever you print even, then you will get the answer. Okay, so the idea is that 1 2 3 4 5 6 7 8 was there, and then simple for I and ARR less than length, and then take the element whatever EL is there, and then if the EL mod 2 is equal to 0, then what are we going to do? We are going to define a empty array called even numbers, or simply let's say even, and that we are going to push even, push inside even that item which satisfied this condition. That's it, right? And when I print this even, then I will get all the even numbers 2 4 6 8, right? Now comes the interesting part. Is there some other way to do it? It turns out there are two separate statements called break and continue. Let's firstly see continue, which are very important for all the loops in general. So for loops there are some other types of loops, but for any loop, break and continue, these two are very important statements, because it allows you to break or continue. Let's see what it is firstly. So continue, what it does is that whenever in any for loop body, when the continue statement is executed, then rest of the body for that iteration is not executed, which means that for that iteration this thing is not going to be executed. Okay, so let's see an example of that. So let's see something like this, that rather than, so let's say if I don't do anything, if I simply do event.push, then what will be my event? Obviously the answer will be wrong. The answer will be wrong because it will that thing is still needed, right? So element is equal to ARR I, that is fine, but the final answer will be 1 2 3 4 5 6 7 8. This is just a syntax, you understand? So it's just a syntax. So if somebody says you that let A is equal to this thing is also valid. So if your array is let's say long, then you can you can write the same thing like this also in one line also, right? Or you can write like this also. So understand? So there is no rule that at the end of every line there has to be semicolon. Understand? At the every statement there has to be semicolon, right? And even if you don't put semicolon, then JavaScript does not put semicolon here, it automatically puts semicolon here, because it knows that how the semantics of the code is working. The syntax is starting with this thing, which means that it is expecting that values will be there, and at the end there will be some closing bracket, and then only the statement will execute, the statement will end. So that's why it will not execute, it will not give you any syntax error, right? Now let's come back to this thing. Right now if I print this, then I 1 2 3 4 5 6 7, obviously these are all the numbers in the array. This is like not even numbers. I want just even numbers. So rather than doing something like this, something like what we did earlier, we take the mod of el, and for the mod of el, if it is 0, then only we are, if conditional, we are pushing it, right? Rather than that, we can do something like this, that if el mod 2 is not equal to 0, I am interested in 0. Whenever it is 0, just run this. But if it is not equal to 0, then I can say that ignore. So and after that, if I write continue, then what happens is that whenever this condition is true, then it sees continue. Whenever continue is seen, then everything in the reiteration, everything is neglected, which means that after that nothing will be executed. As a result, I still get the answer 2468. Again, I get the even numbers. You understand why it is happening? Because for 1, what happened, that 1, this condition got satisfied because 1 mod 2 is equal to 1, and that's why it is not equal to 0. Anyways, it is not even. That's why this condition will be true. Then it sees continue, then it does not execute this, and that's why 1 is not added. For 2, this is not satisfied, and that's why this is added. For 3, it is satisfied, and that's why continue is executed, right? And that's why continue is executed, and then it is not added. So in that same manner, the answer is coming. Okay. Again, this is just a small. You could write the in curly braces. So actually, whenever in curly braces there is just one single statement, then you can write it without curly braces also in the same line. Not in the same line. In fact, even if you write something like this will also work. So what it does is that just the next statement is kept as part of the. So if you write something like let's say let a is equal to 5, right? Then this is not part of if, right? Only this one. So when you don't if you want to make both this part, then you put proper bracket here and proper bracket here, right? If you do that. But if you don't do anything, then the first statement which comes, that is part of the if, others are not, means that this is outside if, something like this, right? Okay. That is fine. So which means that for a shortcut, since I just have to use continue, so just this thing will work fine. So now you understand that why this is giving me the answer, correct answer 2468. Continue statement. When you encounter this thing, and this syntax is only applicable for inside for loop. You understand? So if you write here something like if whatever true, then you write continue, right? Then you see that VS Code is saying that this is wrong syntax, because this cannot be used outside for loop. For loop means in the sense that there are other types of loops, but in any loop it should be there. There is something called while loop or do while loop, those things. But obviously inside a loop only it can be used. Outside a loop it cannot be used. Okay, that is fine. Next, there is something called break statement. Break statement is exactly is almost similar to continue. The thing is that not only it breaks from the current iteration, all the iterations afterwards are also not executed. So you understand, in any iteration, let's say my iteration is from index 0 to index 100, right? Let's say this is my iteration going to at let's say 30th iteration, I did continue. Then 30th, whatever the rest of the statements are there, they will not be executed. But again 31st will be executed, 32nd will be executed. Understand? Till again you see some continue. The point is that but if you see a break, in 30th, then not only that is broken, and that particular iteration, rest of the statements are not executed. After that also nothing is executed. That is the difference. You understand? So as an example, let's see something like this, that if I see my element is less than 5, okay, then okay, so let's firstly try for continue. What is happening? If I do continue, then just now this is not even, so let's name it any, let's say val val array, whatever, right? And I am pushing with this in val and testing the val. What do you think the answer will be right now? Right now, the answer is going to be 5, 6, 7, 8. Why? Because you see that for 1, 2, 3, and 4, all this condition is satisfying, and that's why this thing was not executing. From 5, this thing is becoming false, because 5 is less than 5 is false. 6 is less than 5 is false. 7 is less than 5 is false. From 5 what? From 5 what? From 5 index. Okay, no, not 5 index, from 5 value. So this el is the value, not index. So whenever the value is, so which means that if I have let's say some value which is 90, 10, right, then this thing will be also printed, even if this is like, so you see 90, 10 printed. So any value, it is filtration mechanism sort of, right? Any value which is less than 5 is pruned, is removed from this array. You see 90, 10 is there, and then 5, 6, 7, 8 is there. 1, 2, 3, 4 is removed. Any value which is less than 5 is removed. So this is how the continue is working. What do you think will happen when I write something like break? So you see what is happening here. 90, 10 is happening, right? Why? Because I see that, okay, 90 is less than 5. This is false, so this thing will not execute. 10 is less than 5. This thing is false, that's why this will not execute. 1 is less than 5. Now it is true. 1 is less than 5, it is true, and that's why break will happen. Once break happens, then nothing after that, no iteration after that happens, and the for loop is exited. So that's why after 90 and 10, nothing is printed. Understand? So in the same manner, here what is happening is that you are iterating over, and then for any value which is greater than or equal to 5. So for example, instead of less than, if it is greater than or equal to, then what will happen? You see right now that here empty array is happening, but for the first value only I am seeing that it is greater, and that's why it breaked, and then nothing happened, right? Nothing happened means because I have encountered break, then rest of the iterations I will not do. But let's say something like this: 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 is there. Then you will see that 1, 2, 3, 4. For 1, 2, 3, 4, 1 is greater than equal to 5. False. 2 is greater than equal to 5. False. 4, 3, and similarly 4. 4 is greater than or equal to 5. False. Still the false was happening. Break was not executing, and that's why it was keeping on adding. As soon as I got 5, 5 is greater than equal to 5. Yes, that is true. If that is true, then I encountered break. Then obviously that 5 will not be added. Not only that, 6, 7, 8, nothing will be added, because my loop has terminated right now. Okay. Now, there is another concept, there is another way in which you can break apart from continue and break. Another way in which for loop can be terminated, and that is just a side effect. That is not a particular way, but the point is that something like that, let's say some function is there, and the function name is, let's say, ASD or whatever, and then this thing is inside this thing. Then when you return, and let's say ARR is there, some val is there, now val is done, and let's say now you return val. Okay, and now you execute AHD and take the value, whatever the value will be returned, and now you print the value v. Okay, now you see that this is giving the correct answer. Not only that, instead of break, if you simply return, then what will happen? You see, instead of break, if you do return, what will happen? Yeah, so undefined. So what is happening is that when I encounter, so you see the values. So when I am iterating for 1, 2, 3, 4. Say, so in case of 1, I went inside and then I simply returned. Now you see that the argument of this function is something like this, that okay, yeah, whenever the value which you are returning, that is assigned here, right? Now here you are returning val, and that val was coming v. Here you are not returning anything. If you don't return any particular value, then undefined is returned, and that's why that v is undefined. But at this point of time, it is not clear that how many times this loop. So let's simply write some log, and let's write some random, let's say some arrow I'm printing, so just for debugging. So you see that, yeah, sometimes you see that a few times the value has the for loop has iterated, but what is happening is that the value which you returned, that thing you are returning simply return, not particularly some value. That's why the correct thing will be to do here return val. If you do something like this, then you see that, yeah, you get the value 1, 2, 3, 4, the same value which we are getting earlier, right? And why is that? Because what is happening that, yeah, see, I am inside for loop, my for loop is running for 1 greater than equal to 5, false, so I pushed it. 2 greater than equal to 5, false, so I pushed it. 3, 4, similarly pushed. When I came to 5, 5 greater than equal to 5, yes, it is true now. When it is true, then I am simply returning the current current array val is 1, 2, 3, 4, because 1, 2, 3, 4 have been pushed. But at this point of time, I am returning. You see, I am running inside a for loop. If you are running inside a for loop, and that for loop inside a function, inside a function, and if you return from that for loop, from within the for loop, then not only that for loop is terminated, nothing is executed. Like this whole function returns, and this for loop is terminated. Okay, so and that's why this is sort of just so if for loop is completely outside, not inside some function, then you cannot use this sort of syntax. You can only use break or continue. But if it is inside, then just remember that if you return from inside a for loop, then the whole function is returned, breaking that particular for loop iterations also, that terminating that also. Okay, so that should be fine. Let's see you in the next video.